I came onto this film, the thing that was probably the biggest challenge is that The Lion King was a huge, huge film. So the trick was to tell a story that big.
The Lion King is probably the most successful animated feature of all time, and we felt that in order to satisfy our audience's craving for more and to have them be able to spend more time with the characters, we created a sequel for them.
There was a lot of pressure involved. We had to make sure that it was going to be just as good of a story. It was very intense because we did want to make sure that this group of lions that we all knew and came to love, especially Simba, that this would be a property that we could not just tell twice, but again and again and again.
And that's a tough act to follow. So we were looking for something that was huge, that had a lot of emotional things involved in it.
So it's really fun to sit with the writer and the director and the producer and really hash out a story that's going to be fun and entertaining, that will make you laugh and that will make you cry too.
Working with Daryl Rooney as the director on the film was a wonderful experience. This is a man who has lots of passion about storytelling. What I really learned most about him is understanding and knowing your characters.
He feels it inside himself, which is what makes him so good.
For me as the director, what I did was I thought of, there's the first film that exists as a whole, and then I thought about the second film. What's a story that begins here but doesn't actually end at the end of the first film but ends at the end of the second film? The seeds of it are in the first film. Where is Simba now that he's taken over? Is everybody happy? Not necessarily. And that's where the huge story comes out of.
It's like, now what happens to this little boy, this little cub that we all fell in love with, and what happens to him as he grows up?
Simba's not really done with the hatred that he has for Scar. He couldn't truly be grown up, he couldn't truly be the king until he had let go of the hatred that he had for Scar and could just rule by being absolutely present. And I think that's one of the things that makes him so interesting, is that you really, really sympathize, you understand completely, and hopefully you see, no, Simba, don't act that way.
Father, how could you break your promise?
It's a good thing I did.
To me, this story is a mixture of Romeo and Juliet and the Manchurian Candidate. And for anyone who doesn't know about the Manchurian Candidate, it's the story of a man who was raised by his mother and basically brainwashed by her. And in the story, he discovers that he's been manipulated. So that's what this idea is. In Romeo and Juliet, you're sympathetic with the children.
As well as there being so many similarities to the original film, there were also some differences. There were a whole new cast of characters. It was kind of like the set of lions that were banned from coming into the Pride Lands. And that was led by this character named Zira.
Zira is sleek. She's a mature woman, which lends perfectly to a feline kind of body movement. She's always got an angle. There's a certain angularity to the way she's designed. Sharp points tell you something about her. It's just sort of psychologically makes you feel a little fearful of her. The qualities of a Disney villain or a villainess is that they're mean.
Friends!
They have a reason for being mean so that you do understand.
Who has made us outsiders?
Simba!
Who killed Scar?
Simba!
But that they're entertaining about it.
You must be exhausted.
We have Kiara, who is Simba's daughter. She is by nature adventurous. She's pretty much Simba when he was little, and he doesn't want her to be Simba.
Now, I just want you to be careful.
Okay, can I go now? Please?
And then we have Kovu, and he's Scar's protege, the son of Zira. Kovu, to me, is the most interesting character in this film. He goes from being an innocent cub to being manipulated and distorted so that he becomes a teenage killer. His whole purpose is to kill Simba at the right moment. Then he meets a girl who is so refreshing and open and honest and doesn't hold grudges.
You could hear me. Oh.
That's something he's never experienced. His heart is closed. He sees love between Kiara and Simba, father and daughter, all this stuff he's never experienced. And it starts to make him change, question what he grew up with. This film has two themes in it which really dovetail. And one is that love conquers all, and the other one is letting go of your past.
You will never be Mufasa!
We took actually a lot of steps to make sure that we maintained the integrity of the first film. We were able to get a lot of research information from feature animation so that we were making sure that we were very true to what the original models were, for example, what the colors of the characters were, how those backgrounds looked. In Los Angeles, our primary responsibility is the pre-production and the development of the property. So we start with a script, and then we develop that script into what will then go into what we call storyboarding, and that is a chance to basically take this script, take the written word, and to put visuals to this. And then once we have all these elements compiled, all those elements will get shipped to our studio in Australia for the production. It's this great team of artists that are so committed and dedicated to making these films the very, very best that they can be. And the fun part for me is going down there and actually seeing what used to be just kind of static drawings, and then, you start putting all these drawings together, and all of a sudden, you've got these moving characters that all of a sudden pop and come to life.
You study animal movement. If it's lions, you study lions, whatever the different animals are. Part of it is 4 legs instead of 2. That's a lot of work. You have to understand how that moves, so you've got to get that accomplished. And then there's the human personality. If it's a world of the Lion King, animals don't talk like this. In a cartoon like Mickey Mouse, Mickey can use his hands even though he's an animal, he's a mouse, but Simba can't. You have to be really careful about when you do use an arm. You can't point like this, so you might have to use your head a lot. And sometimes it's as simple as the animator getting down on all 4s and acting it out, or the storyboard person sort of closing their eyes and acting it out. They have to get on the floor and act it out. I would do that.
The most fun part for me of making a movie is probably the music, because it's what I know nothing about. Ladysmith Black Mambazo was involved in the making of Lion King 2, and they were fascinating to work with. They're a band that comes out of South Africa, so it really helped to add some texture, and they helped to kind of drive that song and to make you feel and understand those real African roots about family.
There's a song in this movie that has a very special meaning to me. It's called He Lives in You, and it's about how those who have passed on still live within us. And during the making of the movie, my father died. And I remember listening to that song over and over and over, and it made me feel so good because I remember thinking, my father still lives in my heart. And it just gave the movie a whole new special meaning for me.
Into the truth, in your reflection, he lives in you.
There were some wonderful action adventure scenes in our movie that I just felt really kind of helped to heighten the emotional level of the film.
There's an alligator chase which happens with Kovu and Kiara when they're just cubs. So that one happens in a swamp, and it's, to me, kind of a short sequence, but really gets your heart pumping. There's a rhino chase, and this is an area in the film where Kiara wants to teach Kovu how to have fun in life.
Fun? Fun! Yeehaw!
So Timon and Pumbaa and Kiara start this running race chasing these birds, and it's this big, expansive kind of feel. And they all start laughing, run around this corner, and run up to all of these rhinos, and the birds are, hiding behind the rhinos. Makes the rhinos angry. Huge rhino chase after that. So that's lots of fun. I think that's one of the high points in the film emotionally.
And one would be when Kiara was caught in the fire. And this is her first hunt. This is her passage to adulthood. And as she goes on this passage, little does she know she's going to be encountered with this incredible life-changing experience for her that's going to threaten her life and really raise the stakes for her as a character.
The one thing that we did in the film that everybody will probably notice is that Pride Rock is mostly seen from the opposite side. So you're getting the shadow side. It's actually thematic. This film is about Simba dealing with his shadow side. So we're seeing the other side of Pride Rock. And at the end of the film, the sun rises on that side of Pride Rock. You get sun on it. Resolution, it's a happy ending. The goal was to make a film that was a worthy companion piece to the first film.
The greatest thrill for me was seeing some of the fan mail that would come in from kids all around the world that had seen the film and loved it.
I hope that when people think about this movie and as they grow up and maybe share this movie with their children, that the idea of family and how important the family is comes across, and that will be a lasting impression that they can pass on to their children.